The message came 3 months before Nari's birthday. Official, formal, from the Matriarch Council. She had to return to Veltharion Prime immediately to begin preparations. There were ceremonies to plan, duties to learn, political marriages to negotiate. The council was not asking. They were telling. This was her duty, her obligation. She had to come home now. Nari read the message and felt something inside her break. 3 months early. They wanted her 3 months early. She had so little time left with Doyun and Sora and Jinwoo, with Earth, with the life she loved, and now even that was being taken away. She wanted to scream, to refuse, but she could not. She was Velthara. She had duties. She had always known this day would come. She went to find Dohyun. He was in the garden reading. He looked up when she approached and saw her face. He knew immediately that something was wrong. She showed him the message. He read it slowly. His expression did not change, but she could feel his sadness. She could feel it like a physical thing. Her telepathy had grown strong. Sometimes it was a curse. She felt everyone's pain. That night, they sat on the balcony overlooking Seoul. The city lights sparkled like stars. It was beautiful, peaceful. They had sat here many times over the past 3 years, talking about everything and nothing. Now they sat in silence, both of them thinking about what came next, both of them not wanting to say it out loud. Finally, Do-Yoon spoke. He said he was proud of her, that she had grown into an amazing person, strong and kind and wise. The Velthara were lucky to have her. She would do great things, make important decisions, help her people. She was ready for this. He believed in her. His voice was steady, but Nari heard the sadness underneath. Nari said she did not want to go back, that she wanted to stay here, on Earth with him, with her friends. This was home now, more than Veltharion Prime ever was. She felt free here, happy, real. She did not want to put on the mask again, become the perfect princess. She wanted to be herself. Just Nari, not Lady Nari of the royal house. Just Nari. Doyun listened. Then he said something she did not expect. He said she did not have to choose between being herself and fulfilling her duties. She could be both. She was strong enough now, smart enough. The time on Earth had not made her weak. It had made her strong. Strong enough to stand up for herself, strong enough to demand change, strong enough to create her own path. He reminded her of something she once told him about Velthara philosophy. That true honor came from choosing your path with full understanding of consequences, not from blindly following rules. She had a choice. She could go back and be what they expected, or she could go back and be herself, show them a different way, the way she had learned here. It would be hard, but she could do it. He believed in her. Nari sat with those words for a long time. Days turned into weeks. She thought about what she wanted, what her people needed, what she could offer. She talked to Sora, to Jinwoo, to Ambassador Yuna, to her Velthara advisors. She talked to her mother through long-distance communication. Everyone had opinions. Everyone had advice. But the choice was hers. Only hers. One morning, 2 weeks before she was supposed to leave, Nari woke up knowing what she wanted to do. The answer had been there all along. She just needed time to see it. She spent the day writing, creating a formal proposal. When she was done, she showed it to Doyun. He read it carefully. Then he smiled. It was a big smile. A proud smile. He said it was perfect. It was exactly right. Nari sent the proposal to the Matriarch Council. She proposed creating a new position, Ambassador of Cultural Exchange. She would return to Veltharion Prime, but not to stay permanently. She would split her time between her homeworld and Earth. She would serve as a bridge between the two civilizations, help them understand each other, learn from each other, grow together. She argued that the Velthara needed to change, to learn from younger species, to be less rigid, less hierarchical. The galaxy was changing. If the Velthara did not change with it, they would be left behind. Her time on Earth had taught her valuable lessons, lessons that could help her people. She wanted to share those lessons, to help the Velthara grow. The council response took 3 days. 3 very long days. Nari was nervous. They might reject her proposal completely. They might be angry that she dared to suggest changing traditions. They might force her to come home and never leave again. She tried not to think about it, but it was hard. This was her future. Everything depended on their answer. The response came from Lady Varys personally. Nari opened it with shaking hands. Do-hyun sat next to her, ready to support her no matter what it said. Nari read the message once, then again. Then she started crying. Happy tears, tears of relief and joy. The council had approved her proposal. Not just approved, embraced it. They saw the wisdom in her words. They agreed that change was needed, but there was more. Varys had written a personal message at the end. She said she was proud of Nari, that this was what she had hoped for when she sent her to live with Do-hyun. She wanted Nari to find her own strength, her own voice, her own path. Varys had been working behind the scenes to support the reform movement, to prepare the council for change. Nari's proposal was the catalyst they needed, the proof that change could work. Varys wrote that she had always known Nari was special, powerful in ways that went beyond telepathy, but that power had been buried under fear and duty. Do-hyun had helped Nari find it, had given her the freedom to become who she was meant to be. The life debt was paid, more than paid. Do-hyun had given the Velthara something priceless, a glimpse of a better future, and it started with one brave young woman who dared to choose her own path. The next 2 weeks were busy, preparing for the ceremony on Veltharian Prime, packing, organizing, saying temporary goodbyes to friends, because it was temporary now. Nari would come back. She would split her time between worlds. She would not lose this life she had built. She would not lose her family. It was the best possible outcome. Better than she had dared to hope. The ceremony on Veltharian Prime was magnificent. Thousands attended. Nari stood before the matriarch council and formally accepted her new role. She looked different from the scared young woman who had left 3 years ago. She stood tall, confident, her voice was strong and clear. She spoke about the future, about cooperation between species, about learning from each other, about choosing change over tradition when change was needed. Do-hyun attended as an honored guest. He brought a delegation from Earth, Ambassador Yuna, Sora, Jinwoo, Professor Hyunwoo, others who had become important in Nari's life. They stood together and watched as Nari became not just a princess but a leader, a voice for change, a bridge between worlds. It was beautiful to see. When it was time for speeches, Nari surprised everyone. She called Do-hyun to the platform. He came reluctantly. He did not like being the center of attention. But Nari insisted. She spoke about what he had taught her, about kindness, about freedom, about choosing to be good not because you had to, but because you wanted to. She said he had saved her, not from the crash, from a life without meaning, without joy, without herself. She declared that while the formal guardianship had ended, she would always consider him family, her mentor, her friend, her father in all the ways that mattered. The audience was silent. Then they made that humming sound, the Velthara version of applause. It grew louder and louder until the whole hall vibrated with it. Do-hyun felt tears on his face. He was not ashamed. This was worth crying about. 5 years passed. The Human-Velthara alliance grew stronger. Trade increased. Cultural exchanges became common. The Interspecies Academy expanded. More species joined. More students came. The galaxy started to see humanity differently, not as children, as partners, as friends. It started because one human engineer saved an alien life, and continued because a young Velthara woman chose to build bridges instead of walls. Nari kept her promise. She split her time between worlds. 3 months on Veltharian Prime handling her duties. 3 months on Earth teaching and learning. She helped negotiate treaties, solved disputes, built understanding. She was good at it. Really good. Other species started requesting her as a mediator. She became known throughout the galaxy, not as a princess, as a peacemaker, but she always came home to Earth, to the house in Seoul, to Do-hyun and Sora and Jinwoo. They had dinner together, talked about their lives, laughed about silly things. It was normal, comfortable, family. That was what mattered, not titles or power or prestige. Just people who cared about each other, people who chose to be family. Do-hyun continued his work as a diplomatic advisor. He traveled with Nari sometimes, helped with negotiations, offered his unique perspective. But mostly he stayed on Earth. He liked it there. He had his garden, his books, his sister nearby. His life was simple but full. He had done something important, changed the galaxy in a small way, but he never let it go to his head. He was still just Do-hyun, an engineer who helped people when they needed it. Eventually, they built something new. A station in orbit around Earth, a neutral place where species could meet, learn, train. It became the center for interspecies diplomacy. Nari and Do-hyun co-directed it. They taught classes, mentored young diplomats, helped solve problems. The station was called Harmony. Simple name, but it fit. That was what they were building. Harmony between different peoples. The alarm went off at 6 in the morning, just like it did every day. Ji-hoon reached over and turned it off, staring at the ceiling of his small cabin on Earth Station Harmony. He had been working here for 2 years now, and the routine never changed much. Wake up, check the systems, fix whatever broke overnight, and hope nothing exploded. It was simple work, but someone had to do it. He got dressed in his engineering uniform and made his way to the main bay. The station was buzzing with unusual activity. People rushed past him carrying supplies and equipment. He caught his friend Nari in the hallway looking stressed. "What's going on?" Ji-hoon asked. Nari pushed her hair back. "You didn't get the message? The Luminex delegation is arriving today. The royal delegation. We've been preparing all night." Ji-hoon felt his stomach drop. He had completely forgotten. The Luminex Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They had been around for thousands of years, while humans had only joined the galactic community 20 years ago. And now their princess was coming here, to this small station on the edge of known space. "I need you on gravity control," Nari said. "Make sure everything runs perfectly. No mistakes today." Ji-hoon nodded and headed to his station. He ran diagnostics on all the systems, checking every connection twice. The Luminex were known for their advanced technology and their high standards. They would notice if anything was wrong. At noon, the Luminex ship appeared. It was beautiful, nothing like the practical human vessels. It looked like it was made of light and crystal, moving through space like a dancer. Ji-hoon watched it dock through the observation window. He had never seen anything like it. The welcome ceremony was held in the main hall. Ji-hoon stayed in the engineering bay, monitoring the systems from his console. He could see the ceremony on the screens. The Luminex delegation entered, and everyone in the hall went silent. Princess Velara was the last to enter. She was tall and moved with perfect grace. Her skin had patterns that glowed softly, shifting colors like the northern lights. She wore robes that seemed to flow like water. Even through the screen, Ji-hoon could tell she was someone important. The station commander began his speech. He talked about friendship between their peoples and hopes for the future. It was all very formal and boring. Ji-hoon went back to checking his readings. That's when he saw it. A small fluctuation in the gravity stabilizers. It was minor, nothing dangerous yet. But it was growing. He checked the readings again. Yes, definitely growing. Ji-hoon's hands moved quickly over the controls. He tried the standard fixes, but nothing worked. The fluctuation kept growing. In about 30 seconds, the gravity in the main hall would start jumping around. People would be thrown into the air. It would be chaos. He didn't have time to call for help. He grabbed his toolkit and ran. The maintenance shaft was 3 corridors away. He reached it in less than a minute, climbing down the ladder as fast as he could. The gravity regulator was buried behind 6 other systems. He pulled open the panel and saw the problem immediately. A connector had come loose, probably from the vibrations of the Luminex ship docking. He didn't have the right tool. The standard wrench was too big. He looked around frantically. Then he saw a piece of metal piping. It wasn't made for this, but it might work. Ji-hoon wedged the pipe against the connector and pushed. Nothing. He pushed harder. His arms shook with effort. Then finally the connector clicked back into place. He checked his tablet. The readings stabilized immediately. The ceremony continued above him, and no one even knew there had been a problem. Ji-hoon climbed back up, sweating and dirty. Nari found him in the hallway. "Where were you?" "I was calling you. Gravity stabilizer," he said. "Had to fix it manually." Nari checked her tablet and her eyes went wide. "That was you? The whole delegation could have been thrown around the room." Ji-hoon shrugged. "But they weren't. It's fixed now." What Ji-hoon didn't know was that someone had been watching. In the main hall, Princess Velara had noticed the brief flicker in the lights that came with the gravity fluctuation. It had lasted only a second before being corrected. She had watched the security feed on her personal device and seen a human engineer running through the corridors, climbing into a maintenance shaft, and fixing the problem with a piece of pipe. Lady Zafina, her advisor, leaned close. "What are you watching, Your Highness?" "Just observing," Velara said softly. She watched the young human wipe sweat from his face and return to his duties without waiting for praise. "These humans are interesting. They are still very young as a species," Ambassador Kelthus said. "Barely 20 years in the coalition. They have much to learn." "Perhaps," Velara said. "Or perhaps they have much to teach." The ceremony continued. Treaties were discussed and pleasantries exchanged. But Velara found her attention wandering. She kept thinking about that moment of quick thinking and improvisation. In her long life, she had met many people across many worlds. Most were predictable. They followed rules and procedures. But this human had seen a problem and simply fixed it, using whatever was at hand. That evening, Ji-hoon was back in his cabin, writing his incident report. The gravity stabilizer had been properly repaired by the maintenance team, and he had documented everything that happened. It was just another day of work. He didn't know that in the royal quarters, Princess Velara was looking at his personnel file. She studied his background, his training, his record. He came from a simple family in a city called Busan. He had worked hard to get into the engineering academy. His supervisors said he was reliable and creative when solving problems. "Why are you so interested in this human?" Lady Zafina asked. Velara closed the file. "I'm not sure yet. There's just something about the way he handled that situation. No fear, no hesitation. He saw what needed to be done and did it." "That is his job," Zafina pointed out. "Yes," Velara agreed, "but he did it like it mattered. Not for glory or recognition, simply because it needed to be done." She looked out the window at the stars. "In our empire, we talk much about virtue and honor. But when was the last time you saw someone truly embody those things without thinking about it?" Zafina had no answer for that. She left the princess alone with her thoughts. Outside, Earth Station Harmony continued its orbit, and Ji-hoon slept peacefully, unaware that his life was about to change forever. 3 days after the Luminex delegation arrived, the station organized a tour of the Biodome Gardens. It was supposed to be a peaceful event, showing off Earth's plants and the experimental alien species growing alongside them. Ji-hoon wasn't supposed to be there. His job was checking air filters in the lower levels. But Nari had asked him to help set up some equipment, so he found himself in the gardens that morning. The gardens were beautiful. Real trees grew here, along with flowers from a dozen different worlds. The Luminex delegation walked slowly through the paths, and Princess Velara stopped often to admire the plants. Ji-hoon stayed in the background, making sure the environmental controls were working properly. Everything changed in an instant. One of the experimental plants, a tall purple thing from a planet called Nexus 7, suddenly started shaking. Its leaves turned bright red, then it released a cloud of yellow spores into the air. People started coughing immediately. The Luminex guards moved quickly, surrounding Princess Velara and pushing her toward the exit. Alarms blared throughout the biodome. The safety systems should have activated, sealing the contaminated area and purging the air. But nothing happened. Ji-hoon checked his tablet. The safety systems had detected the spores but couldn't identify them. The alien biological signatures weren't in the database, so the system didn't know how to respond. It was just sitting there, waiting for someone to tell it what to do. People were evacuating in panic. Ji-hoon saw the Luminex guards rushing the princess toward the main door. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. A small figure was sitting by a fountain near the contaminated plant, coughing and confused. It was Yuna, a young girl who had come with the delegation. She was the daughter of one of the Luminex staff members. In the chaos, no one had noticed her. The section doors began to close automatically. In 10 seconds, Yuna would be sealed inside with the toxic spores. The emergency purge would kill the spores, but would also remove all the oxygen from that section. She would suffocate. Ji-hoon ran. He didn't think about it. He just ran. Someone shouted behind him, but he didn't stop. He grabbed an emergency respirator from the wall and pulled it on as he ran. The doors were closing. He dove through the gap with seconds to spare. The yellow spores were everywhere. Even through the respirator, Ji-hoon could smell them, sweet and sickly. His eyes watered. His throat burned. He stumbled toward Yuna. She was barely conscious, slumped against the fountain. He picked her up. She was small, lighter than he expected, but his head was spinning from the spores. The respirator wasn't designed for this kind of contamination. It was only buying him time. The doors were sealed now. He couldn't get back out the way he came. Ji-hoon looked around, trying to think through the fog in his brain. The emergency purge would start in 3 minutes. He had to find another way out. Then he remembered. There was a maintenance access in the north corner. It led to the air circulation system. If he could get there, he could climb through to the next section. But it was on the other side of the contaminated area, and the spores were thickest there. He had no choice. He held Yuna close and started moving. Each step was harder than the last. His legs felt like they were made of stone. His lungs burned even with the respirator. But he kept moving. Outside, in the control room, everyone watched the security feeds in horror. Nari was shouting into the communication system, trying to reach Ji-hoon. The station commander was there, along with Ambassador Kelthis and Lady Zafina, and Princess Velara, who had refused to leave despite her guards' protests. They watched Ji-hoon carry the small girl through the yellow fog. He fell once, twice, but got back up each time. Velara's bioluminescent patterns were flashing rapidly, something that happened when she was experiencing strong emotions. "He's going to die," Lady Zafina whispered. "The emergency purge starts in 90 seconds. Ji-hoon found the maintenance access." He pulled the panel open with one hand while holding Yuna with the other. The space inside was narrow, barely wide enough for him to fit through. He pushed Yuna in first, then squeezed in after her. The crawl space was dark and hot. Ji-hoon's respirator was failing. He could hear it making strange sounds. He crawled forward, dragging Yuna along. His vision was starting to go black at the edges. He couldn't remember where the exit was. Everything looked the same. Then he saw light ahead. A ventilation grate. He pushed it with all his remaining strength. It didn't move. He pushed again. Still nothing. The purge was starting. He could hear the systems activating. In the control room, Velara made a decision. "Open the emergency override. Section D7. Now." "Your Highness, that will compromise the quarantine," the station commander said. "I don't care. Do it now." The commander hesitated, then entered the override code. On the screen, they saw the grate that Ji-hoon was pushing against suddenly slide open. He fell through, landing hard on the floor of the next section. Yuna tumbled out after him. Medical teams rushed in. They put oxygen masks on both of them and carried them to the medical bay. Ji-hoon was barely conscious, his respirator completely destroyed. The last thing he saw before passing out was Princess Velara's face above him, her patterns glowing so brightly they hurt to look at. He woke up 6 hours later in a hospital bed. His throat was raw and his head pounded, but he was alive. Nari was sitting beside his bed, looking exhausted. "You're an idiot," she said, but she was crying. "You could have died. Is Yuna okay?" His voice came out as a whisper. "She's fine. Because of you, she's completely fine." Nari wiped her eyes. "Her mother has been here 3 times asking about you. The whole Luminex delegation knows what you did." Ji-hoon closed his eyes. He felt tired down to his bones. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Nari said quietly. "You didn't. Most people would have evacuated with everyone else. You ran toward danger to save someone you didn't even know." In the royal quarters, Princess Velara stood at the window looking out at the stars. She hadn't slept since the incident. She kept replaying it in her mind. The moment the young human had seen the child in danger. The way he had run without hesitation. The determination in every movement as he carried Yuna through the toxic fog. "You're thinking about the human again," Lady Zafina said, entering the room. "His name is Ji-hoon," Velara said. "The doctors say he will recover fully, as will young Yuna, thanks to him." Zafina paused. "What he did was remarkable. In our empire, such bravery would be celebrated with the highest honors." Velara turned from the window. Her bioluminescent patterns were glowing with a soft, steady light. "I watched him save that child knowing he might die. He didn't do it for honor or reward. He did it because it was right." She looked at her advisor. "How long has it been since we've seen true virtue? Not performed for an audience, but simply lived?" Zafina didn't answer. She could see something changing in the princess, something significant, and she wasn't sure if it was a good thing or a dangerous one. 2 days after the biodome incident, the station held a formal ceremony. Ji-hoon didn't want to attend. He felt embarrassed by all the attention, but his supervisor told him he had no choice. The station commander was going to give him a commendation for bravery, and the Luminex delegation would be there. It would be rude not to show up. Nari helped him get ready. She made sure his dress uniform was perfect and fixed his hair 3 times. "You look nervous," she said. "I am nervous. I don't like these formal things." Ji-hoon tugged at his collar. "I just want to go back to work." "Well, you saved someone's life. The least you can do is accept a medal for it." Nari smiled. Besides, Princess Velara herself requested to attend. "That's a big honor." Ji-hoon's nervousness increased. He hadn't seen the princess since the incident. He didn't know what to say to someone like her. "What did you talk about with royalty from an ancient empire?" The ceremony was held in the main hall. It had been decorated with flags from Earth and the Luminex Empire. Representatives from several other species had come too. The room was full of important people in fancy clothes. Ji-hoon felt very small and out of place. The station commander gave a speech about bravery and duty. Ji-hoon stood on the stage trying not to look at the crowd. Then it was time for the commendation. The commander called him forward and presented him with a medal. Everyone applauded politely. Ji-hoon thought that was it. He started to step back. Then Princess Velara stood up. The room went silent. She walked toward the stage with perfect grace, her robes flowing behind her. Her bioluminescent patterns were glowing brightly, pulsing in a steady rhythm. She climbed the steps and stood before Ji-hoon. "Ji-hoon of Earth," she said. Her voice carried clearly through the hall. "I have witnessed your courage. You risked your life to save one of our children without thought for your own safety. In my culture, such virtue is the highest ideal we aspire to." Ji-hoon didn't know what to say. "I just did what was right, Your Highness," she smiled slightly. "That is exactly what makes it remarkable. You did not act for reward or recognition. You acted from pure virtue." She turned to face the assembled crowd. Her patterns flared brighter. "Therefore, by the ancient law of Velathis, I make this declaration before all witnesses." Lady Zafina stood up suddenly. "Your Highness, wait." But Velara continued. "Ji-hoon of Earth has proven himself worthy. He embodies the virtues my people hold sacred. I claim the right of Velathis. He is my chosen partner." For a moment, nobody moved. Then the hall exploded with noise. The Luminex delegation was talking all at once. The human representatives looked shocked and confused. Ambassador Keltis stood frozen, his face showing complete surprise. Ji-hoon felt like the ground was falling away beneath him. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "What does that mean?" Velara turned back to him. Her patterns had settled into a calm, steady glow. "It means I am choosing you as my life partner. In my culture, this is a sacred bond. It cannot be broken once declared publicly." But why? You don't even know me." "I know enough," she said. "I have lived for over a century and a half. I have met thousands of people across dozens of worlds. Most of them perform virtue. You live it. That is rare. That is precious." Lady Zafina had reached the stage. "Your Highness, please reconsider. This human does not understand our ways. He knows nothing of our culture or our expectations. This union would be complicated beyond measure." "All the more reason to proceed," Velara said calmly. "Our culture values wisdom, courage, and virtue above all else. This human has demonstrated all 3. Is that not what matters?" Ambassador Keltis finally found his voice. "The right of Velathis has not been invoked in 300 years. Your Highness, are you certain?" "I am certain." Velara's voice was firm. "The law is clear. Once declared before witnesses, the claim is binding. Unless Ji-hoon himself refuses, the bond will stand." Everyone looked at Ji-hoon. He felt hundreds of eyes on him. His mind was racing. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like him. He was just an engineer. He fixed things. He wasn't meant to be partnered with a princess from an ancient empire. But when he looked at Princess Velara, he saw something in her eyes. It wasn't arrogance or impulsiveness. It was certainty. She had made this choice knowing exactly what it meant, and she was waiting to see what he would do. I need to understand what this means," Ji-hoon said. "For both of us." "Of course," Velara said. "We will talk. You will learn about my culture and I will learn about yours. But the declaration has been made. The bond has begun." The ceremony ended in chaos. Diplomats rushed to consult with their governments. The station commander looked like he might faint. Nari pushed through the crowd to reach Ji-hoon. "Did that really just happen?" she asked. "I think so." Jihoon sat down on the stage steps. His legs felt weak. I think a princess just claimed me as her partner in front of everyone. What are you going to do? I have no idea. He looked across the room to where Princess Velara stood, surrounded by her advisors. She was arguing with Lady Zafina about something. But even from this distance, Jihoon could see the determination in her posture. I think my life just changed completely. Are you okay with that? Jihoon thought about it. He should be terrified. He should refuse and go back to his normal life. But when he remembered Princess Velara's eyes looking at him, full of certainty and something else he couldn't quite name, he realized he didn't want to refuse. I don't know, he said honestly, but I want to find out. That evening, Jihoon received a message requesting his presence in the royal quarters. He changed into clean clothes and made his way there, his heart pounding. The guards let him pass without question, which was strange. Apparently everyone already knew about the declaration. Princess Velara was waiting for him in a private sitting room. She had changed into simpler robes and her patterns were glowing softly. Thank you for coming, she said. I think I need you to explain what just happened, Jihoon said. Of course. She gestured for him to sit. The rite of Velethis is an ancient tradition. When someone demonstrates extraordinary virtue, a member of the royal family can claim them as a life partner. It is both a political alliance and a personal bond, once declared publicly. It cannot be undone except by your refusal. Why me? There must be many people who have done brave things. There are many people who perform brave acts, Velara agreed. But you didn't perform anything. You simply saw someone in danger and acted. No calculation, no thought for reward. Just pure instinctive virtue. Her patterns pulsed gently. In my long life, I have rarely seen that. And I realized I wanted it in my life. I wanted you. Jihoon looked at her, at this powerful ancient being who had just changed his entire future. And for the first time since the declaration, he smiled. Then I guess we should get to know each other. The next 2 weeks were the strangest of Jihoon's life. He still had his job in engineering, but now he also had daily lessons about Luminex culture. A tutor named Varix came every morning to teach him about their history, customs, and formal protocols. There was so much to learn that Jihoon's head spun. The Luminex had rules for everything: how to greet someone based on their rank, how to eat at formal dinners, what colors meant different things, when to speak and when to stay silent. Jihoon tried his best, but he kept making mistakes. One evening, he was invited to dinner with the Luminex delegation. It was a formal affair with 7 courses and special utensils for each dish. Jihoon sat next to Princess Velara, trying to remember everything Varix had taught him. He picked up the wrong fork for the second course. Several Luminex nobles noticed. They didn't say anything, but Jihoon saw them exchange glances. He felt his face get hot with embarrassment. Velara leaned close to him. Use whichever fork feels right, she whispered. The rules are less important than the company. He looked at her gratefully. Her patterns were glowing with warm colors. He noticed that she seemed to glow brighter when she was near him. He wondered if she noticed. Lady Zafina sat across the table, watching them with disapproving eyes. She had been against the bonding from the start and made no secret of it. During the meal, she asked Jihoon questions designed to show how little he knew about Luminex culture. Tell me, Jihoon, she said sweetly. What do you know of the Festival of Lights? It is our most important celebration. Jihoon searched his memory. Varix had mentioned it, but he couldn't remember the details. I know it celebrates the founding of your empire, he said carefully. And the traditional ceremony? Can you describe it? He couldn't. He shook his head. I'm still learning, still learning. Zafina smiled coldly. And yet you expect to bond with our princess. How can you truly understand her if you don't understand her people? Perhaps understanding comes from more than memorizing ceremonies, Velara said. Her voice was quiet but firm. I have observed that humans excel at understanding what truly matters, even if they don't know all the formal details. Zafina's expression soured. Your Highness, I only worry about your future happiness. A partnership requires shared culture and understanding. Then perhaps I should learn about human culture too, Velara said. A partnership should go both ways. She turned to Jihoon. Would you teach me about your world? And so they began spending time together, really together, not formal lessons or diplomatic meetings, but actual conversations. Jihoon showed her human music and movies. She was fascinated by how humans told stories, how they created art from their short lives. "Your people feel everything so intensely," she said one evening as they watched the sunset from an observation deck. "You only live for 100 years or so, but you fill that time with so much passion and creativity." "Is that bad?" Ji-hoon asked. "No, it's beautiful." Her patterns pulsed softly. "My people live for centuries. We have all the time in the world. Sometimes I think we've forgotten how to truly live because we're not pressed by time. We perform our roles and follow our traditions, but do we really feel things anymore?" Ji-hoon thought about that. "You feel things. I can see it in your patterns. They glow brighter when you're happy." "Do they?" She looked at her hands, watching the light dance across her skin. "I hadn't noticed." "They glow brightest when you're near me," he said, then felt embarrassed. "Sorry, that sounded strange," but Velara was smiling. "No, it didn't. It sounded honest. That's something else I've learned from you. Humans are honest about their feelings. We Luminex are taught to control ourselves, to never show too much emotion, but you just say what you think and feel. It's refreshing." They talked late into the night, sharing their hopes and fears. Velara spoke about the loneliness of her position, how everyone treated her as a princess first and a person second. Ji-hoon told her about growing up poor in Busan, working hard to get into the engineering academy, always feeling like he had to prove himself. "I still feel that way," he admitted. "Like I don't belong here with you. You're royalty. You're ancient and wise. I'm just some guy who fixes things." "You're not just anything," Velara said firmly. "You saved a life. You acted with courage and virtue. Those qualities don't care about your birth or your job. They're who you are inside." Ji-hoon wanted to believe her, and when he looked at her glowing patterns and saw the warmth in her eyes, he started to think maybe he could. But not everyone was happy about their growing closeness. Lady Zafina continued to find problems. She discovered an ancient law that said partners of royalty must pass certain trials. She brought it to Ambassador Kelthus, who reluctantly agreed that the law still stood. Earth's government was also worried. They sent representatives to talk to Ji-hoon about the political implications. If he bonded with Princess Velara, it would create a formal alliance between Earth and the Luminex Empire. That was good, but it also meant Ji-hoon would have responsibilities beyond just being a partner. He would represent humanity in the Empire. "Can you handle that pressure?" the Earth ambassador asked him. "This isn't just about romance. This is about the future of our species in the galaxy." Ji-hoon felt the weight of it all pressing down on him. He was just one person. How could he carry so much responsibility? Nari found him sitting alone in the engineering bay late that night. "You look terrible," she said, sitting beside him. "Everyone wants something from me," he said. "The Luminex want me to prove I'm worthy. Earth wants me to be a perfect representative. Princess Velara wants— I don't even know what she wants anymore." "Have you asked her?" "What? Have you asked her what she wants?" "Not as a princess, but as a person?" Nari looked at him seriously. "I see how she looks at you, Ji-hoon. She doesn't look at you like you're a political tool or a symbol. She looks at you like you matter to her. But how can this work? We're from completely different worlds. She lives for centuries. I'll be gone in a blink of her eye." "Maybe that's exactly why it can work," Nari said gently. "You'll show her how to live in the moment, and she'll give you a purpose bigger than yourself." "Isn't that what people look for in a partner?" Ji-hoon thought about that. He thought about Velara's smile when he explained human jokes to her, the way her patterns glowed when they talked, how she listened to him like his words actually mattered even though he was nobody special. "I think I'm falling for her," he admitted quietly. Nari smiled. "Good, because she's already fallen for you. Anyone can see it. Now you just have to decide if you're brave enough to fall with her." That night, lying in his bed, Ji-hoon made his decision. He would face whatever trials came. He would handle the pressure and the expectations. Because for the first time in his life, he had found something worth fighting for. Not duty or honor, but something simpler and more profound. He had found someone who saw him, really saw him, and chose him anyway. The bonding ceremony was scheduled for 3 days from now. The station was decorated with flowers and lights from both Earth and the Luminex homeworld. Dignitaries from across the galaxy were arriving. It should have been a time of celebration. Instead, Earth Station harmony exploded into chaos. The attack came without warning. One moment, Ji-hoon was helping set up chairs in the main hall. The next, alarms were screaming and the lights flickered. Explosions rocked the station. The communication systems crackled with urgent voices. "This is Commander Hayes. We are under attack. All security personnel to defensive positions. All civilians to emergency shelters immediately." Jihoon ran toward the engineering bay. He needed to check the systems, make sure the life support stayed online. But Nari grabbed his arm in the hallway. Her face was pale. "It's the Krell Dominion," she said, pulling him into a side corridor. "They're boarding the station. They're after Princess Velara." Jihoon's blood went cold. The Krell were a hostile faction in the coalition. They had been enemies of the Luminex Empire for generations. If they captured the princess, they could use her as a hostage to force political concessions. "Or worse, where is she?" Jihoon demanded. "The royal quarters. Her guards are trying to get her to the Luminex ship, but the Krell have blocked the main routes." Jihoon didn't think. He just started running. Nari called after him, but he didn't stop. He knew this station better than anyone. He knew every maintenance shaft, every service corridor, every shortcut. If anyone could reach Velara, it was him. He ducked into a service tunnel just as a squad of Krell soldiers marched past. They were heavily armed, their armor gleaming black. Jihoon kept moving through the narrow passages, climbing up access ladders and crawling through ventilation ducts. He could hear fighting all around him. Explosions, weapons fire, screams. He emerged near the royal quarters. The corridor was a disaster. Bodies lay on the ground, both human security guards and Luminex protectors. Jihoon's stomach churned, but he kept moving. He had to find Velara. A sound made him freeze. Footsteps, heavy boots. He pressed himself into a doorway as another group of Krell soldiers passed. They were talking in their harsh language, but he caught one word he recognized. Velara's name. He followed them carefully, staying out of sight. They led him to a sealed section near the observation deck. He could hear fighting inside. Someone was making a last stand. Jihoon accessed a control panel and pulled up the security feeds. His heart nearly stopped. Princess Velara was inside with 3 of her guards. They were surrounded by Krell soldiers. She was wounded, her robes torn and stained, but she was still fighting, her movements graceful even in desperation. He had to do something. But what? He wasn't a soldier. He didn't have weapons. All he had was his knowledge of the station and his engineering skills. Then he saw it. The environmental controls. He accessed the system and started typing commands. The observation deck's gravity stabilizers, the air circulation, the lighting. He could control all of it from here. Jihoon took a deep breath and executed his plan. First, he killed the lights in the corridor outside the observation deck. The Krell soldiers shouted in confusion. Then he vented the atmosphere from the connecting hallways, forcing them back. Finally, he opened an emergency access door that led directly to where Velara was trapped. He ran through the door just as the Krell were regrouping. Inside, Velara and her remaining guards were exhausted. When she saw him, her eyes widened. "Jihoon, how did you get here?" "I know all the back ways. Come on, we have to move. I can get us out through the maintenance levels." They followed him into the service corridors. But the Krell were adapting. They had figured out what Jihoon was doing and were sending soldiers through the same passages. The chase became a deadly game of cat and mouse through the guts of the station. They reached a junction point where several corridors met. Jihoon checked his tablet. There was a clear path to the Luminex ship from here, but Krell soldiers were approaching from behind. They wouldn't all make it. "Go," Jihoon said to the guards. "Get her to the ship. What about you?" Velara demanded. "I'll hold them here. Buy you time." He looked at her, memorizing her face. "Go, please." "No," her voice was firm. "I won't leave you. You have to. Your people need you. The Empire needs you." He smiled sadly. "And I need you to be safe." The Krell were getting closer. Jihoon could hear their boots echoing through the passages. He grabbed an emergency seal lever. If he pulled it, this section would lock down. The princess and her guards could escape, but he would be trapped here with the Krell. "I love you," he said. He hadn't planned to say it. The words just came out. "I just wanted you to know that." Velara's patterns blazed brightly. "Jihoon, don't you dare!" He pulled the lever. The emergency doors slammed down, separating them. He heard her scream his name, but he was already moving. He ran in the opposite direction, making as much noise as possible. The Krell would follow him. They would leave the princess alone. They caught up to him near the cargo bay. Jihoon fought back with whatever he could grab. A wrench, a piece of piping. He wasn't trained for combat, but he was desperate. He took down one soldier before 3 more surrounded him. Pain exploded across his chest. A Krell weapon had struck him. He fell, his vision going dark at the edges. Through the haze, he heard new sounds. Energy weapons, shouting. The Krell around him fell. Reinforcements had arrived. Human and Luminex soldiers together, fighting side by side. The Krell were being pushed back. The station was being retaken. Ji-hoon tried to stay conscious. He had to know if Velara was safe. But the darkness was pulling him down. The last thing he saw was her face above him, her patterns flickering wildly with fear and something else. Love, maybe. Or hope, and stay with me, she was saying. Please, Ji-hoon, stay with me. He tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come. The world faded to black. When Ji-hoon woke up, he was in the medical bay. Every part of his body hurt. But he was alive. Tubes and monitors were connected to him. Soft lights glowed around his bed. And sitting beside him, her hand holding his, was Princess Velara. Her patterns were glowing steadily, like she had been watching over him for a long time. Ji-hoon spent 5 days in the medical bay. The Luminex had shared their advanced healing technology with the human doctors, and together they had saved his life. The wound across his chest would leave a scar, but he would recover fully. Physically, at least. Mentally, he kept replaying the attack. The fear, the violence. The moment he had pulled that lever, not knowing if he would survive. He had nightmares about it. Sometimes he woke up sweating, thinking he was still running through those dark corridors. But every time he woke, Velara was there. She rarely left his side. She slept in a chair next to his bed. She held his hand when the nightmares came. She just stayed with him, her presence steady and comforting. On the 6th day, Ji-hoon was finally allowed to sit up and move around. Velara helped him to a chair by the window. Outside, repair crews were fixing the damage to the station. Ships came and went. Life continued. The Krell have been pushed back, Velara said quietly. The coalition has imposed heavy sanctions. They won't try something like this again soon. Ji-hoon nodded. He felt empty. The attack had changed something in him. He had seen how fragile everything was, how quickly it could all fall apart. I need to tell you something, Velara said. Her patterns were glowing softly, but there was sadness in them. You're free to go. He looked at her, confused. What? The bonding. You're free to walk away from it with full honor. You've already done more than anyone could ask. You saved my life. You nearly died for me. No one would blame you if you wanted to return to your normal life now. Is that what you want? He asked quietly. No. Her voice broke slightly. But I watched you almost die because of me. Because I claimed you. Because I put you in danger. I can't ask you to keep living with that threat. It wouldn't be fair to you. Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. He looked out at the stars. Just a few months ago, he had been a simple engineer with a simple life. No complications, no danger, no responsibilities beyond his job, but also no purpose. No one who looked at him the way Velara did. No one who saw him as more than just a guy who fixed things. When I pulled that lever, he said slowly, when I sealed myself in with the Krell, I thought I was going to die. And you know what I thought about? Not my job, not my achievements, not anything I'd built or fixed. I thought about you, about your smile when I tried to pronounce Luminex words, about the way your patterns glow when you're happy, about how you listen to me like what I say actually matters. He turned to face her. I'm scared. I won't lie about that. This attack showed me how dangerous your life is, how dangerous my life would be with you. But I'm more scared of losing you, of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what could have been. Velara's patterns blazed brightly. You're certain? I love you, Ji-hoon said. I said it when I thought I was about to die, and I'll say it now when I know we have a future. I love you, and I want to be your partner, not just in name, but in every way that matters. She moved closer and took both his hands. Then we need to set some terms, because I won't have you lose yourself in this. You were right during the trial of heart. A real partnership means we both stay who we are. What do you mean? You'll be my partner, but you'll also be yourself. An engineer, a human, Someone who sees problems and fixes them. I don't want you to just stand beside me and look pretty at ceremonies. I want you to challenge me, to bring your perspective, to help me be better. She smiled. And in return, I'll support your dreams. Whatever you want to build or explore or create, we'll make it happen together. Ji-hoon felt something loosen in his chest. He had been so worried about losing himself, about becoming just an accessory to her life. But she understood. She wanted him as a partner, not a possession. Deal, he said. The bonding ceremony was held 3 weeks later. It had been postponed while Ji-hoon healed and while the station was repaired. But now everything was ready. The ceremony blended Luminex and human traditions. They exchanged vows in both languages. They shared bread and salt in the human custom and synchronized their breathing in the Luminex way. When Velara's patterns began to pulse in rhythm with Ji-hoon's heartbeat, even Lady Zephina looked moved. Representatives from dozens of species attended. The attack had changed things. Earth and the Luminex Empire were now formally allied, and other species wanted to strengthen their own ties. What had started as one person's choice had become a symbol of cooperation across the stars. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Ji-hoon found himself shaking hands with ambassadors and dignitaries. Everyone wanted to talk to the human who had won a princess's heart. It was overwhelming. Nari rescued him, pulling him aside to a quiet corner. How are you holding up? I'm married to a princess, Ji-hoon said, still sounding amazed. How did this become my life? You saved a kid, then you passed impossible tests, then you saved the princess, then you nearly died for her. That's how. Nari smiled. You earned this, Ji-hoon. Don't forget that. I'm still scared I'll mess it up. You will mess up, everyone does. But you'll also fix it, that's what you do. She hugged him. I'm proud of you. And I'm happy for you. 6 months passed. Ji-hoon and Velara split their time between Earth Station Harmony, the Luminex homeworld, and a new joint station being built. Ji-hoon had proposed the new station as a place where humans and Luminex could work together on engineering and scientific projects. To his surprise, both governments had loved the idea. He was still an engineer at heart. He still fixed things. But now he also advised on diplomatic matters, using his practical perspective to solve problems that had stumped politicians for years. Velara called him her secret weapon. One evening, they stood together on the observation deck of the new station. Ships from dozens of species docked below them. The station was becoming a hub of cooperation and trade. Ji-hoon's simple idea had grown into something bigger than he'd imagined. Do you ever regret it? Velara asked softly. Saying yes to me? Your life would be simpler if you'd walked away. Simpler, yes. Better? No. Ji-hoon put his arm around her. Her patterns glowed warmly against his skin. I spent my whole life being invisible, just another engineer. But you saw me. You chose me. You gave me a purpose bigger than myself. Why? Would I regret that? You're not invisible anymore, she said with a smile. The human who won a princess, the engineer who became a diplomat, the man who helped bridge 2 civilizations. You're famous now. I don't care about being famous. I care about this. He gestured to the station, to the ships, to the people working together below. I care about making things better, and I care about you. Velara leaned against him. There's an old Luminex saying, the stars shine brightest when they shine together. I never understood it until I met you. I was a single star, burning alone for centuries. But with you, I shine brighter than I ever did by myself. We shine together, Ji-hoon said. That's what partners do. Below them, a human cargo ship docked next to a Luminex diplomatic vessel. Workers from both species moved together, unloading supplies and greeting each other like old friends. It was a small moment, but it meant everything. It showed what was possible when people chose to build bridges instead of walls. Lady Zephina approached them, no longer cold and disapproving. She had become one of their strongest supporters, impressed by the changes they had brought. Ambassador Kelthus is asking for you both. There's a proposal from the Coalition about expanding the cooperation program. We'll be right there, Velara said. After Zafina left, she turned to Ji-hoon. Ready for another challenge? With you? Always. He smiled. Let's go fix some problems. They walked together toward the conference rooms, her hand in his, their future bright with possibilities. Ji-hoon had started as a simple engineer who just wanted to do his job. But he had become something more. A partner, a bridge builder, a person who had learned that the greatest repairs weren't to machines or systems, but to the connections between people. And as Velara's patterns pulsed in time with his heartbeat, as they faced whatever challenges came together, Ji-hoon realized something important. Love wasn't about grand gestures or impossible trials. It was about this. Two people choosing each other every day, supporting each other, growing together, making each other better. That was the real story. Not about a princess who chose a human, but about two people who chose each other and built something beautiful from that choice. And in the vast, complicated galaxy, that was the most human thing of all.